everybody and welcome to the channel, to a new video, and I am super chuffed to be able to do a studio tour. Finally, it's taken a long time to get to this point and I've been sort of teasing this on social media a little while. It's the hottest day of the year. It's potentially the hottest day on record for various parts of the United Kingdom. It's about 34 degrees outside at the moment. We've got the air conditioning on in here and I'm going to do you a tour of this. Now, regular viewers may remember a video where I converted the old shed that used to sit sort of broadly on the same land into a studio, and it was just never going to be quite right. It was a little bit damp. It hadn't quite been built professionally in terms of off the damp course and various technical reasons. There were loads of spiders as well, which, you know, isn't a great move when you're trying to sit in there, record videos, do work, etc. So I took the plunge, built this. Huge shout out to Sanctum Garden Studios, who are sponsoring this video. They are the people who built this studio in about 2 days. So let's talk about the building itself. So the old shed used to sit basically at a right angle to the house. It was huge, it was monstrosity. So it took about 3 of us about 2 days to take this beast down. I mean, it was pretty well made, double skinned, insulated, electrics, you name it. Loads of beasties in there, loads of trees actually growing in the loft, which was a bit weird. So we took that down. It took a further probably 3 or 4 weeks to actually dig out the concrete base, which was a good 20 to 30 centimeters thick. We got it all level. I was umming and ahhing. I was discussing this with my wife, whether the new studio should sit on that same plot or whether it should run basically parallel to the house. So we decided parallel to the house for a number of different reasons. The first one being we wanted to have all of the sheds and the outdoor space looking the same. So this bit here that we're in at the moment is the studio. Next door, there's a shed. We've still got the old blue shed over here, which we'll keep until we've renovated the house. And we've got rid of the other one. What we didn't want was a really nice, spangly looking studio and a really knackered, battered old shed next to it. We also didn't want to then have to bring in a carpenter to try and match the wood and do all the other stuff if we were going to extend on the side of this building. So we took the plunge to go for the whole distance. It's actually 9 meters in distance. The Sanctum guys turned up, rocked up on, I think it was like a Tuesday evening. They'd driven all the way down from somewhere up north. I think it's Alton, Burnley, Blackburn, somewhere that way. Turned up in high spirits, rocked up, started digging some massive holes the night before they're actually due to do the build. They asked obviously if it was okay. I said, yes, let's do this, let's go for it. Another van turned up, some more people turned up, some more people turned up, and in the end I think there was about 6 or 7 of these guys on site. They brought high spirits, lots of jokes, lots of banter, really good positive group of people. It was actually really enjoyable actually to see them working so well together. Next day they rocked up 7 o'clock in the morning and cracked on with building this thing. Everything was prefabricated off-site in their workshop. So everything was brought down on the lorries and the vans and all the other good stuff. There was a delivery from one of the local building merchants, which actually delivered the wrong thing. So they had to go out and get the right thing. And it was all, you know, dealt with very well, actually. It's made of, obviously, you know, a timber frame. It's got plywood and insulation and all sorts of stuff on the inside, but clad on the outside is cedar. So all the way along the front is a really nice high-end cedar finish. Around the back and the side, it's kind of like a treated timber that's got a kind of cedar look to it, but it's not cedar. That would have been way too expensive. We've got a rubber sealed roof. It's all heat resistant, hopefully. 35 degrees today, that'll give it a good test. So it's about 1.5 meters from the fence line, so loads of room behind there as well to store wheelbarrows, all that kind of stuff that happens to us in life. The doors, I ended up going for double French doors on the front. On the inside, they're white just to try and keep costs down. Really nice mechanism on the door, super secure, all that other good stuff. You will notice there's blinds fitted. These were fitted after the event and they were fitted by a company called Winchester Blinds, who were really good actually. A guy called Dean came out, did a quote, really competitive quote. I was a bit worried that the white blinds, when you turn them and flip them on, which is done by a little rocker switch by the way, and it's all really nice and neat and tidy, that it would look a bit weird with the silver frames and the wood, but actually it looks really smart actually. We got these stock lighting that came with it, a couple of sockets on that wall over there, a couple of sockets on the walls behind me. There's still plenty to do when it comes to the actual build itself. So outside, obviously we dug up all the dirt. It's running now further away from the path than the original shed did. So I've added a very temporary path all the way across the front. There's still a little patio area which I'm going to dig out and just put some of the slabs that we've got from the garden into that area. The reason being is when we come to do the house and the garden, we're actually going to have a garden designer come and do something really funky and cool with it. So we didn't want to go and spend a fortune on, decking or really expensive slabs if we weren't entirely sure how the garden would sit once the blue shed's gone and once it's all been tidied up and married seamlessly, hopefully, to the house. So when I was designing the sort of layout of the studio, what I wanted to have is separation. I wanted to have an area for storage, which is the bit we'll come to in a minute. I wanted to have an area for creative stuff, which again, we'll cover in a minute. And then I wanted to have an area that was just for work. So as you can see, you've got a standing desk here, which is, what I use for day-to-day consulting, coaching, the kind of business that cultivator management is in. And then I've got a dedicated area here for editing videos, recording podcasts, bookcase, and then over this side of the room, we have the creative space and the little chill out zone, which we'll come to in a minute. So this little desk here is where I'm going to probably record most of the videos, and we'll talk about how I sort of shifted the design around a little bit to accommodate the quite significant amount of light coming in, even with the blinds closed. So this will be where I do most of the videos, but it's also my sort of, journaling, analog kind of area as well. So what I wanted here was a place where I could do the journaling, I could do doodling, I could do learning. And then this bit over here is basically the storage, the main storage. But fundamentally, this is where all of the goodies get stored, cables, that kind of stuff. We'll cover all of these in detail in a minute, but that's just the basic separation. So you've got kind of work at one end, you've got storage in the middle, then you've got a nice chill out creative zone at the end. So this is the sort of main desk for doing consulting work, the kind of stuff that's related to my day-to-day job as a management HR, agility kind of consultant coach person. So what we've got here, we've got a standing desk. It's got a really sort of funky preset sort of thing. It's all electronic, moves up and down. I've obviously got to sort some of the cabling out at the moment, so I was just waiting basically to see how it works, whether it was the right position. This desk is from Wayfair. It's got the presets, like I said, so you've got the standing and then obviously one for seating. The reason I sort of went for this one was, firstly, it was one of the best priced desks that I could find. It matches the kind of color broadly that I've been trying to get on with, and we'll come on to that in a minute. But also it was one of the ones that moves to the highest point I could find, and it's still probably a couple of inches too short at its highest level. I did ideally want one that was a little bit deeper, because as you can see, it's kind of cluttered. There's not a lot of room here. In the future, what I might do is replace the lid on here with something bigger. So I bought this really cheap rubbish. It is rubbish. I will say that it is a really underperforming laptop, but it's a dedicated work machine. When I work with clients, I often have to have all sorts of tools installed that allows them to monitor it, remote wipe and all that kind of stuff. So I didn't want them, wiping all my client data, videos and all that sort of stuff on my Mac. So I used this cheap HP laptop, paired it with an Azteen monitor. This thing's actually pretty decent. It folds up quite small. You can travel with it. We've got a mark and fold everyday notebook. If you've listened to the Stationery Freaks podcast, you'll know that myself and Helen, the co-host, are huge fans of mark and fold. This is an everyday notebook that I use every day. This little desk riser thing with a little drawer is from IKEA. It was on offer. I think it was about £7 I ended up paying for that, which is pretty good. Got a really quite bad Tesco cabled keyboard. Eventually I might swap that one out for a wireless one. Who knows? And then over here, we've got an Nanami fast charge. You just stick your iPhone on there and it charges, which is pretty good. So moving on over here, basic iMac. This thing's getting a bit long in the tooth. It's running out of space. It's not quite performing as well as it did 4 or 5 years ago when I bought it, but it's still pretty decent. It still does what I need it to do to edit videos. Struggles a little bit with 4K, which I've started to move a little bit more towards. Paired up, hard drives, all that kind of stuff. We've got a microphone here for podcasting. This leather sort of cover thing was a gift from a family member at Christmas a few years back. Really good, really like that. It makes it sort of feel a little bit posher and nicer. This is a really cheap desk from IKEA. I think it was about £15. Bought it 2 or 3 years ago when, the pandemic hit and everybody was working from home. I will eventually replace this. So let's move on to the storage over here. But before I do that, let's have a quick chat about the lighting. So I've got 2 big sort of studio lights that came with the studio. They're quite bright. They're very directional in terms of in. I don't think I'm going to use those very much. I've only had this studio built in the spring this year, so I haven't actually been in here in the winter where I'm obviously going to need the lights a little bit more. So for now, I've tried to keep this sort of mustard yellow vomit kind of color going through. We've got a lamp here from Argos, Habitat Argos. We've got 2 standing lamps here. Again, from Argos, really like that sort of color scheme. And when we move on to the sort of chill out area, you'll see the chair is the same color. So on here, and I've got a little post-it note reminding me to mention everything. We've got a couple of pieces of artwork. I was in Cornwall, lucky enough to have a little break 3 or 4 months ago, and went to Portleven. And there was a sort of studio kind of barn with some independent artists in there. This one here is from Hand and Palm. So really, really nice print. Really loved this one. It's really cool. And then we've got the little birds on the sort of rocks, all made from stuff that's been sort of reclaimed off the beach. So really like that. That's by Laura Martin. Some stuff here from IKEA. NBA poster. If you've seen my videos in the old house, you'll see that that featured in the background, pretty much of all of them. So big fan of basketball, huge fan of the NBA. We've got TP-Link. So internet into here. 2 choices really. One is run a cable all the way down, put it into here and have the internet straight from the house. I will eventually probably do that. The reason I haven't is because we're having the house renovated. The mains box into the house for some reason is in the bedroom upstairs. And so running cables all the way down, we don't quite know where the master socket box is going to end up. So I didn't want to do that just yet, but I think when we do the house, I will run a cable down here. It's not too bad at the moment. I'm using a TP-Link mesh system. We've got about 5 units up in the house. I've got one located at the furthest, well, nearest to us, back of the house, and then one here, and it works really well. It works absolutely brilliantly. I still think I'm going to run a cable. Got some books here, some little coffee table type books, Mirror Sound, Draplin Design. I've got a few more packed away in boxes. We still haven't unpacked those after the move. And then just a little drinks area, IKEA type stuff. Inside, we've got a drawer here at the top. Now, one of the things about having a shallow drawer is it kind of forces a little bit of organization. So got little boxes, you can't sort of stack stuff on top of each other and lose things. Really nice to be able to get to all the camera gear and all that kind of stuff. A couple of cupboards here, tripods, boxes, goodies, that kind of stuff. Another cupboard here with sort of cleaning type stuff in, a few camera accessories, that kind of stuff. And then over here, notebooks. Not a surprise to find a stack of notebooks for somebody who's pretty much obsessed with stationery. So underneath the cupboard is an LG soundbar with a subwoofer here. So moving over here to the chill out area, this chair, it took me a long time to find the kind of design and color that I was looking for. I was originally thinking about maybe having a sort of bed settee down here, so you know, my kids and his mates could sort of stay over down here, but then I thought, do I really want them down here in the studio? Absolutely not. I also thought if I have a settee here, the chances are I will probably have a lie down every so often, probably fall asleep and probably ruin that day's ability to get anything done. So I opted for a chair. It took me a very long time to find this. This one is from Next. It was a really, really good find. I will say, double check your prices in Next with online, because online Next, that is, because actually the chair was advertised for £100 more in the store than it was available online. That created a whole load of grief, as you can imagine, in the store as they tried to work out what was going on. It was originally going to be in the other corner of the studio, but one thing I realized when I put it there was I'd basically be sat looking at all the other houses, the back of their houses, and that was just a little bit creepy for everyone involved. So moved it over here where there's trees outside. I can't see anything other than trees, and I'm going to have a nice little patio outside, which will be quite nice. Little coffee table here again from Argos. There's a bit of a theme here. This was about 15 quid, I think it was. Nice just to store all the charging kind of stuff here. Now, one of the challenges, and it's a nice problem to have, so I'm not going to complain about this, is the aircon unit blows air obviously directional, but pretty much across the top of your head here. So it does get quite chilly when that's on, or quite hot when it's in winter, no doubt. So I might end up moving it around a little bit, but fundamentally this is probably where it's gonna stay. We've got the PRS guitar here taunting me every single day to pick it up and have a play. I will get back into that. Lamp behind, same as the one over there. It's a foot press to turn it on as well, which is cool, so I can just wander around and press it. Now, I've always struggled with editorial calendars when it comes to stuff, not building one, but actually sticking to a tool, for example. So it started off in Trello, then Todoist, then notebooks, then post-it notes and all that kind of stuff. And the key thing for me when it comes to productivity is making my commitments and my ambitions visible. So I dug out the old whiteboard. I didn't want to put it up on the wall because I didn't want to commit to having it in a dedicated place, given that I've only just moved in, but also I didn't want to damage the walls. And there's going to be some artwork going up here to dampen the sound and obviously to make it a little bit more visually stimulating and enjoyable to be in here. So on here is my editorial calendar, basically all the way up to December with all the videos. We've got MSIs, which is multiple sources of income. So these are the kind of things that I'm hoping to drive more income, passive income, hopefully, as we go through the year. One thing I was always guilty of and still am is trying to deliver too much in too little time. So I've visualized it to make it a little bit more obvious that actually things do take a long time to build something of value and that I shouldn't really push too hard. We've got videos that I'm working on. We've got, here's an idea worth playing with, which is a new idea which I'm going to be launching on social media, basically mini snippets of videos. And then business as usual, we've got podcasts, Stationary Freaks podcast over there. We've got newsletters, we've got all that sort of stuff. Very simple, low tech, analog. It allows me to sort of just move stuff around, rub stuff out, put a line through it when it's done. Since moving to the system, I've actually managed to get stuff done, which is pretty cool. So let's move on to the creative space. So this bit here is the sort of chill out analog kind of area for learning, drawing, doodling, journaling, that kind of stuff. So I've got this cheap sort of book stand, reading stand from Amazon. I'll share a link in the description below. So what we use in here, a little bit of a look into the kind of notebook system very briefly. I will do a video on this later in the year. A few people have asked about this. So again, another mark and fold everyday notebook. This is going to be the new journal. Before this, I was using a Moleskine. Similar sort of size Moleskine, softback. I like my softback books. One of the things that I've tried to do, I've done a video on personal knowledge management systems before, but what I'm doing now is sort of shifting that a little bit. So it's still got the same 4 structural pieces to it. So it's about capture, curate, crunch, and contribute. Those still remain, but I'm trying to remove myself a little bit from the digital world. Now, of course, it's nice to be able to find stuff, type it quickly, etc. But what I was finding was I was spending too much time in front of a computer and not enough time with paper and pen. So I've got a A5, I want to say. A5 Moleskine, clear page, and this is going to be a continuation of this original Ted Baker one, which I talk about in a few videos in the past. So this contains pretty much all the knowledge that I have in my head to some extent, all documented here, but obviously that's now full, so we're going to move on to a new one here. So currently working through a visual communication book, academic book, which is pretty cool. It's kind of interesting if you're into that sort of stuff, which I am. So that's going to be the new paper version, and then once I've finished each one of those pages, take a picture, upload it to my new system, which I'll do a video on called Nimbus Notes, and then I've got it digitally, but also I've then worked through it in an analog way. So big ideas book here, I'm using this one at the moment instead of A4 legal pads, which I normally do, as you may know from watching previous videos. And all of this is on this beautiful, wonderful desk here that my friend Paul made for me. It's a resin river desk, 2 really nice pieces of wood and a resin piece that goes in the middle. You might have seen this on previous videos. Really nice legs that match the stand-up desk, and they match the cabinet over there as well. So this is the situation at the moment here. Still need a bit of sound deadening because this is probably where I'm going to do videos. You get a decent amount of light, you don't get a huge amount of reflection on my glasses. So what about flooring? So really nice laminate flooring, didn't want to get this scratched and damaged. Trying to find a rug that went all the way across here was quite tricky. Also needed to find a rug. It's a bit of a mess. I should have hoovered this, shouldn't I? Also wanted to try and find a rug that allowed the chair to roll across it, not get stuck, not damage it too much. So basic floor mat here, again from Argos. There's a theme. We've got an IKEA tray here, which I've not needed really, but when winter kicks in and it's wet and soggy and muddy, come in here, pop your shoes in there, umbrella, that kind of stuff. It's a nice little tray just to capture the moisture and the dirt as it comes in. We've got this big rug here. This was from Habitat, Argos again. Really like this, really nice sort of material. It feels soft, it feels hard wearing. And then over here for the chair, this was a bit of a bargain from IKEA. So I went in and it was reduced from, I think it was £120 down to 40. It's really nice. The chair rolls across it pretty well. I will say though, I've only had it a month and it's already starting to lose its pile a little bit. You can see the footprints and the chair prints. I don't think it's going to last very long. Probably need a much more hard-wearing solution to that. So there we have it. This is the studio tour, and I won't show you the shed next door, but it's a 3x3 shed that's going to be used for storage of all sorts of stuff, gardening, that kind of stuff. That's it for the studio tour. So here is the main studio. We've got all the bits that we've walked through. So let me know what you think. Let me know how I can improve it. Let me know whether you've got your own working studio. I mean, I'm super privileged, very lucky to have this. It's been a long time coming. I've been saving money for years to get my own space. I didn't ever expect to have anything quite like this. It's a really wonderful space. I'm really blessed to have this. I'm going to make the most of it. There's going to be more videos, more podcasts, more books, more consulting day to day to help pay the bills. And then hopefully one day I'll pick up that guitar in the corner and I'll play that as well. Not on a video, because nobody needs to see that. So I hope you've enjoyed the video, and I will catch you in the next one.